Begin the current Daf Mesechtes Bava Kama Daf Kufiyat Zayin. Begin the second line down at the top of the Amud, where we're in the middle of a conversation from the previous Daf, where we were discussing this halacha of someone steals a field from his friend, and then the mobsters take it away from him, depending on if this was a global thing or specifically regarding this person, if he's going to be chayiv or not. But the Gemara gets into a conversation, says, what's the case talking about? If it's that they only took his field and not everyone else's, we already know that already from the inference of the first case of the Mishnah, which is said in Marcus Medina he. Then they could just say, look, they're doing this to everyone. It's not because of me that I stole it from you. And then of course I understand that if they're doing it just because of him, then he has to pay him back another field. So why would you have to say that halacha? You already know it from the diuk. So the Gemara says, he actually didn't steal the field. He just pointed it out to them, this guy's field. And that's what we're saying, that Satais explained, because of Dina de Garmi, because he's causing indirect cause to this guy's loss by showing, hey, you guys are coming to take fields, look, take this guy's field. That's the case that we're talking about. And the Gemara brings a story that the person did such a thing, and Rav Nachman obligated him to pay. So the question that was asked, was it a dina or a knasa? Was it that ikar halacha, or just a penalty? And they want to know what's the difference. And nafkamina would be, and that's where our Gemara is going to continue, if it's a dina or kamina, they could learn enough from that and say, okay, that's the halacha, that's how you paskin. That don din de made that, if someone indirectly caused a loss by pointing out this guy's field, then you have to pay. But if it's a knasa like kamina, you can't learn out from penalty. The penalty is a specific, case specific, and that's why our Gemara is going to continue. Says, well, how do you know that you can't learn out from knasa? Sure, it's corresponding to today's daf, throughout the entire world. So we're discussing today's daf are halachas of a meiser, which is essentially what we're talking about. That yisor shansu akum, that if the non-Jews force the Jew, if they force him and they say, okay, where's that Jew's money? Sapata. But if he goes and he actively takes someone else's field, there's going to be chayiv. The Gemara brings the incident of Rav Kana and Rabbi Yechon, a very interesting story that the Gemara will go through. Shatfa nahar, if a river floods something, but this is, look, your land is still here, although it's ruined. The halacha that karka in exil's property cannot be stolen. And the Gemara concludes with a machlek is regarding how we darshan psukim. Rabbi Lezer darsh ribu yemeute, and Rabbanan darsh klal prati. They're different terminology, but they're not just semantics. It's relevant how you darshan more inclusive or not. So begin the current daf Kufiyat Zayin, second line down at the top of the Yamid. We had mentioned the Mishnah, this halacha about goyzel sad mechaveiroi, when the talom masikin, the person stole someone's field, government then confiscated the field from the Gazlan. The Mishnah had made a differentiation. In Makkah's Medina, if other fields in the province were also taken, and this was not because of the Gazlan, okay, Gazlan doesn't have to pay the owner for the field. It's not because of me. Your field was always here. They took it from you. But Machman's a Gazlan. But if they took the field because of the Gazlan, he stole that guy's field, so they're taking it from him. Then he has to pay the owner for the field. Now, like we said, the Gemara explains, even if the Gazlan not actually steal a field, rather the akvech vuye, because or else that halacha we already know from inference of the Reisha, he indicated to the official to take the field. He's chayav, like we said from Taisa, because the Mishnah holds the doin din de garmi. One's liable for damage that were caused indirectly by pointing out this guy's field. You're liable for that. Now, that's what we're saying, that this is a halacha of either dina or knas. That's what Gemara wanted to know, is it dina? I mean, Taisa explained the dina, but the Gemara says now, menot temra. You told me you wanted to know why a paskin that he's going to be chayiv. Was it because of dina or knasa? Because of its knas, you cannot learn nothing. That says the Gemara, menot temra. How do you know that if something is a penalty, you can't learn that? Why can't you make a comparison halachically and say, oh, just like over there we penalize, so too somewhere else? No, because the time learned the brisa. In the beginning they said, hametame. If someone makes someone else's taharis, his pure food, tame, or v'hamanasich, he pours the friend of his wine for avodah zara, where although it's right there in front of him and the damage is not recognizable, it's not hezek nicker, you would still have to pay for these two things. Both metame and manasich, they look the same as they always did, but lamaisa, it's causing the guy damage. Chazru leimer, they subsequently went back to say af hamadameya. Dameya is if someone makes his chulin, someone else's chulin with truma. Now, what happens is he's devaluing the value of the chulin because it's not fit anymore to sell to the masses. It's only fit for the select kahanim because you have truma mixed in over there. So that's also, they ended up saying that that's also considered as a hezek. Now, chazru in, it sounds like only because they ended up going back. Loi chazru loi. Had they not gone back, then no, we would not have learned out midameya, when you mix someone's chulin with truma, we would not have learned that out from menasech. My timer, why wouldn't you learn it out? It sounds like they're all the same thing. They're all unrecognizable damage. Lav mishum de knasu isn't because the reason why you have to pay is only because of penalty. And you cannot learn out from a penalty, which the top taisa says. This that in the beginning they weren't geyser on this, just like the other one. Why was the chazul leimer if it's all knasa? You could say because a story happened with Mitamim and Asach. So they were geyser. B'shas ma'aser we find many times in Shas that because of a specific incident they went and made a gzeira. That's the reason. Okay, but another incident, another category that's similar, they never made it. And so we wouldn't be able to just learn it out. Why not? Because it's knas. And by knas, lo. So that's the point that the Gemara is making. The Gemara says, and that wouldn't be a good source. Because you could say, Meikar Sabri, in the beginning they held, lehefsid merub b'chashashu. They were concerned only for a large loss. When you take someone's truma and you make it tameh, it's a huge loss because you can't eat it anymore. You would just have to go ahead and use it as fuel. And for sure, when you do take someone's wine and you pour it for avodah zarah, that makes it isur hana. That's a total washout. Maybe that's why they originally made mitameh menasich, but lehafsimu lechashu. For a small loss, they weren't so concerned because midameya is a small loss because you're not making it prohibited. You're just saying it's only able to be sold to kahanim for the value of truma. And then you could say, but at the end they held, they were concerned even for a small loss, even for medameya. So you can't prove because it's halach of kanasas. No, maybe you would be able to learn that from a kanas. The reason why they didn't was because they thought they would only be for a large loss and not for a small one, and then they ended up including that too. The Gemara says, is that really so? Could that be the interpretation and that's how you're rejecting my proof? But I have a problem because Vatani Avud above and the father above and taught a Bryce a different nusach, a different version. In the beginning they said, if someone takes someone else's taharis and makes it tameh, or you take someone's chul and makes it with truma, that you're going to be chayav to pay for the damage. And then they subsequently included also if you take his wine and you pour it for avodah zarah. Now, that again sounds like chazru, and only because they went back and they made it. But like chazru, if they didn't go back, then we would not have learned that menasach, even though its loss is greater than the medamei metame, because that is a total washout, and versus they're considered minimal in contrast to menasach. So what would be the reason that you wouldn't learn out and know menasach? Lab mishum deligamina knasa isn't because you cannot learn it from knasa. And again, like Taisa explained, so why wouldn't we say it over there? Because the story never happened by menasach. But you wouldn't learn it out. Why not? Obviously because kanas. Sigma loy. No. Interesting pshat says the Gemara. I could tell you. Mikara sabir kirabavan. In the beginning, the rabbis held like Rabbavan. At the end, they held like Rabbi Yomi. What does this mean? So the Gemara explains. Again, we're talking about why menasich. Even if you're telling me you could learn that from Knesses, why I would not have known it? Why would I not learn that from Mitam Medameh? Because like this, Mikar Savikar Bavin, that the Amr Bavin, he says the following halacha. Zarek Chetz. It's interesting comparison. We're taking halacha Shabbos and comparing it to other things. But someone shot an arrow on Shabbos. Mitchilas arba l'seif arba, and it went 4 amos from Mishras Rab, which again is a malacha da'iraisa of chil Shabbos of haitzav carrying. Now, the kaddish shudoin belichase. When he shot the arrow, as it's shooting, it tore someone's gachkas that's hanging there on the clothesline there in Rosh Hashanah, or whatever it is, or went through someone, whatever it is, it tore some cloth as it's going. Potter, he's going to be exempt for the damages. Why? That when you lift something up, it's a necessity, it's the prerequisite, it's the first half of the malacha of Eitzah of when you're going to put it down. Now, since between when you picked it up and you put it down, which you're not really picking up and putting it down, but like when you're taking the arrow, you're releasing it and then it's going to land somewhere. In middle between the Akir and Anacha, it tore the garment. Comes out that the Maisa Shabbos, the Chil Shabbos, which is the Maisa of Eitzah, and the Maisa of the Kriya of tearing the guy's garment came at the same time. In other words, what are we bavaring? What are we addressing over here? We don't say that from the moment of the Kriya, you can be chayiv mammon, and you will chayiv misa only when the arrow lands, because you didn't do a full malacha only when it actually gets to the end of the 4 amos. We don't say that. because we view the Akira and Hanacha as one. So it's one big Maisa, and then that one big Maisa was also damaging, which we know, U'mischai benafshay, so you chayiv Misa, and we know when you chayiv Misa, you don't pay for damages. Oh, here also, when you lift up the wine, it's for the purposes of doing the nisach of the avodah zarah, the libations, and that means to say that the payment and the chayiv Misa avodah zarah are coming at the same time, and therefore, that's why they held you're going to be potter. Now, that was what they originally thought. So that's why they thought you're not going to be chayiv for the hezek of damages that you caused for someone else's wine because you already chayiv misa. But the end they held like Rabbi Yirmiyah. The Amr, meaning when they ended up saying that no, you will be chayiv for the damages of menasach, because the Amr Rabbi Yirmiyah says no, it's not true. V'shas hagba kanye. The moment you lift up the guy's wine is when you acquire what's called kinyan negezela. Ichayiv le'mam, at that moment you already owe him the money. But your chiv misa you're not going to have up until you actually pour it. And therefore it's not happening at the same time. And therefore there's no raya that you cannot learn out from knas, because we have a different pshat why we originally thought we're not going to know menasich. Not because you can't learn it from another knas. Maybe you could learn it from another knas. The reason why is because we held the lamdus of it is that it's boin ke'echad, and then we said no, it's two different times.
But the hanacha of the arrow is a Gemar Malacha. Why in this case are you saying that it's not?
What's the Gemar Malacha?
The hanacha of the arrow, after it does the kriya, and it goes...
Right, so that would be the question if he would disagree there too. Exactly.
It's a machlokes.
That could be, because it's not happening at the same time. Or you could say Shabbos is different because it's all part of the Akira and Hanacha, but here it's different because here to do the Nisach you don't have to do Hagba, and that therefore it's considered independent of the when you actually do the Nisach. Now the Gemara brings a story regarding this halacha of a meiser, which we're discussing. Essentially, that's the halacha of a Mishnah of as we described it, when you're pointing out to the government authorities someone else's stuff, so you're essentially informing on him. So Rav Huna bar Yehuda iklo lebei Aviyoynei, which is the name of a place. Also, Kamei the Rava came from the Rava. Amalei says, "Klom ma'isa boliyotcha." Episa into Santa Ma'isa, anything story came to you? Amalei says, "Yeah, I'll tell you a halacha that just came to my court." Yisrael she'ensur evdi kachavim. There was a Jew that the authorities coerced him, the Herimam Chaverei, and he showed someone else's assets. That's such a story. Bali other came to me. And I held him liable to pay for showing this guy's assets to the authorities. Amalei, so on that he said to him, you have to give back the money to that guy. You have to undo the ruling. Ketanu in the Bryce actually not like what you ruled. Yisrael, if there was the non-Jewish authorities forced a Jew, and therefore he showed someone else's assets, Pati is exempt. Not chayiv. Now, if he picks it up himself and hands it over to them, then chayiv, then he's liable because, like Rashi describes, this is what's called being matzel asman b'mom chaveroi. He's saving himself with someone else's money, meaning when he actively does an action, he's causing the hezek directly, and that's something for his own personal benefit, and therefore, then he's going to be chayiv. But if he just pointed it out to them, he's actually pater. Now, Rabba says, or the Ger says, Rava, now, if, however, he went and he showed the authorities someone else's assets without them compelling him to do so on his own, that's kanas v'nosim b'yadame. Well, then he's going to be just as liable as if he handed him the assets himself, which is when they coerce him. So either when they coerce him and then he does it by his hand, or even if they don't coerce him, even without doing it by his hand, either one of those cases he may chayiv. The Gemara brings a story. Who gavered on Surah Abdi Gachavim? There was a story where there was a certain person that the non-Jews had forced him. So he showed it for. There's always the wine. Yeah. He showed the wine of Mari Breda Pinchas Breda of Chizda. So Amalei, they said to him, Dari v'amoti b'hadan. Pick it up and bring it with us to the house of the king. So Dari v'amti b'hadayir. He lifted up and he brought it with them to the king. Also, like Rav Ashi, he came from Rav Ashi. Patrinu, he let him off the hook. He said, "You're not chayiv." So I'm like, Rav Ashi. The rabbi said, Rav Ashi, what do you mean? But by the time we learned the Brayza, im nasam nasam yad chayiv. We said if he lifts it up and he actively does it with his own hands, he's going to be chayiv. How can you say he's potter? He said, no, when do we say that if you pick it up by hand, you're going to be chayiv? That's only where the non-Jews had not placed him meikara originally on the money, meaning they didn't know anything where it is, and he goes and then he takes it, then he's going to be chayiv. But if he went and he originally anyway showed them already where the wine was, so mikli kalye, so it's already, so to speak, like burnt, because when he points it out to them, we said he's potter because they already know where it is. When he ends up picking it up, he's already picking up their wine because it's already the authorities already see it. So the halach of natal b'nas and biyad is only a chiyuv if he goes on his own and he takes it and then he brings it to them, then he's going to be chayiv. But if he showed it to them, he showed them, here, there's got wine, so then it's already potter, it's already theirs, and when he picks it up, therefore he's not going to be chayiv. However, Eisvei Bavo the Rav Ashi. Bavo asked Rav Ashi from the following brisa. Amalei Anas, if a mobster tells him, Hoishet li pekia amar zeh, stretch out for me this bundle of this straw. So again, that means to say that he's already there. Or a cluster of these grapes. And he passes it to him, because he's doing it by hand, even though the non-Jew is there standing over the money, because he's saying zeh, but still, since the guy does it by hand, he's going to be chayiv. That contradicts what we just answered, that we said that if the guy's there already, you're going to be potter. Well, no, we're talking over here. This is the classic terminology that is used in the halacha of lifnei iver. We're talking about where there are two sides of the river, meaning the non-Jews on one side and the bundles on the other side. Where, although he could say zeh, this, because he could see it, but if this guy doesn't pass them, the mobster can't take it. So therefore, that's not like achvoy that you already showed it to him, and then it's like mikli kali, it's already burnt, and then you're not doing anything by handing it. No, by handing it to him, you're actually actively causing the damage, and therefore that's why you're going to be chayiv. I think Gemara says, a precise reading of the brisa indicates this, because he told him the words are, he told him, he should pass it to me. But he told him, it doesn't say give it. Because he couldn't reach it. And therefore that would be a violation of natal b'nasa b'yad, and therefore that's why you'd be chayiv. Gemara brings the story, Hushusa. There was this trap that was used for fish or for wild animals. There were two people fighting over whose net, whose trap this is. Hayamadidihu, this guy was saying it's mine. Hayamadidihu, this guy saying it's mine. We're going to see this soon, Mitzvim, and at the end of this week in Bava Metzia, starting, this guy says mine, this guy says mine. So one of them went, and he gave it over to the officer of the king. A police officer walking by says, hey, you take it. Now, Abai says, the guy who gave it to the officer could say, Anoki Masi, when I gave it over to the police, Didi Masi, I was giving over my own. I mean, each guy's claiming it's his. So he's not going to be chayiv for doing this. He said, it was mine. I'm allowed to do that. Rabbi says, you think he has any right to do that? It might be the other person's. This is what they're disagreeing about. How could he just go give it to the officer? The Rabbi says he disagrees. He says, we excommunicate this guy who gave it to the officer until he gets it back, and then they have a court case over this trap that they were fighting for. Another story, there was a person, he wanted to show the officers where his friend's straw was. Maybe he's blocking his driveway. Who knows? Something. Also came in the Rav. So he came in front of the Rav. Amalei says, Loi tichvei v'loi tichvei. Don't. Mevasnish by the authorities. Don't show and don't show. Amalei, no. Machvina. You love those guys. And he says, no, I'm going to show it. So yes, Rav Kahana came in the Rav. Rav Kahana was sitting in front of the Rav. Shamte lukoye. Mine. He tore out his neck from him. Meaning he broke his spine. And he killed him. And Kodi Rava Levei, Rav said regarding him at Pasuk in Yeshaya, Benayich Ufu, your sons, they faint. Shachva Berish Kachutzais, they lay in the opening of all the outsides. Kisai, which is it's a wild animal, it's the Shahabar. You know, the Shahabar, the wild ox. Machmer, a trap. What does this mean? Matoizeh, just like this shahabar, this wild ox. Once it falls into the trap. We don't have compassion on it. Yisrael. Also the money of the Jewish people. Once it falls into the hands of the non-Jews, they don't have mercy on him. Which that's what the pasuk is saying, that it's talking about the Jewish people, that they're oilef, they're faint and they're laying there in the streets, meaning like this shahaba, wild ox, which when it gets caught in the trap, that's how the non-Jews are regarding the money, and therefore Rashi explains, you did very well that you killed them. In other words, as Tais explains, yeah, you're called a meiser by when it's something that's very clear that they're going to take it from the other person who's showing it, and therefore that's why he's considered a meiser. And again, as we're seeing in our dafim, the halacha of a meiser is something that the halacha takes very serious, and on some level it's considered like a reidif. So therefore, he says, yeah, very well that you killed him.
Did he kill the guy or not?
Yeah, let him say he killed him. So Amalei Rav. So the problem is the story continues. So this was Rav Kahana who was in front of Rav, and Rav Kahana killed the guy because he's a meiser. So and like we said, Pnei Yeshua says you're allowed to kill a meiser because he's considered right if he's endangering people's lives. So Rav said, Kahana, Ada Idna have a parsai. Up until today, and there's different girsayis and taisis or whatever exactly who we're talking about, but the way the girsa we have in our Gemara is, up until today, the Persians used to be in control. They didn't care so much about murder. Another statistic, another guy dies. Fine. Problem is, now there's the Greeks, the Kaptei Shvichas. They're very particular about murder. And Va'amri, they're going to say mardin, which also has the word murderer, like that they're going to prosecute you. The fact that you killed this guy, kum sakla arad Yisrael. Go up and run away to Eretz Yisrael, and because you can't stay here anymore, they're going to prosecute you. But accept upon yourself, Rabbi Yochanan there is the Morda Astra, he's the Rosh Hashiva. Make up, right, for 7 years. I think that's a Daf Yomi cycle. 7 years, you don't ask a kasha in the middle of Daf Yomi shir. That's it. So, Azal Ashkechel Resh Lakish. He went up and he encountered Resh Lakish. The Yasser become a Sayim is sifted the Yom Rabban. He was finishing, meaning this is what's called Chazar Sashir. That he was repeating to them what Rabbi Yochanan darshan that day, again because you don't ask kasha in the middle of the shir, we have to chaz over that you said, and Resh Lakish. So for those who didn't get it, he would repeat it. He was a great chacham. After everyone heard the shir from the Rav, then people had questions. They would come over to him to hear what had been said in the shir. So Amalahu, he said to them, Resh Lakish heicha, where's Resh Lakish? Amalahu said to him, Amai. Why? Why do you need Resh Lakish? Again, remember, because you can't ask kashas in the middle of the shir. But he had kashas on the shir, so he wanted to go to Resh Lakish, who he was the chayzer, he was the one who repeated the shir. So they asked him, why do you need Resh Lakish? Well, he says, hi kasha, hi kusha. This shir had a lot of questions. I have this question, I have that question. V'ai peruka, and there was a few questions asked. I have this answer, that answer. So only Resh Lakish, they said to Resh Lakish what this new person, Rav Kahana, was saying about all the questions he had on the shir. So other Resh Lakish, well, Rabbi Yochanan, he said over to Rabbi Yochanan, the Maggid Shir, says there's all these questions he has. He says, Ari Allah mi Bavel. The lion has come up from Bavel. La'ayin marbe misivt al-macha. He told Rabbi Yochanan, he says, you better look into your teaching tomorrow because someone, a big Talmid Chacham is listening to your shir. So l'macha yisvu b'dari kama kamed Rabbi Yochanan. The next day, they put him in the front row, in front of Rabbi Yochanan, the one who asked the kashas. So because there's 7 rows of students that were in front of him, one in front of the other. So they put him in the front row. So Amar Shemaitza actually. So Rabbi Yochanan's had a teaching. They're waiting for and he doesn't ask anything. Shemaitza another teaching actually doesn't ask anything. So Anachti Achayri Shevadari. So they put him in the back of the 7 rows. Until before you know it, he's in the back row. But chsid mishtipt, if you don't have anything to do, before you know, they swallow you and you're in the back. That's it. Some of Rabbi Yochanan said, Arisha Marta, the line that you said, Nasa Shul became a fox, which is he doesn't really have so much to say. It looks like. So Amar Rav Kahana said, Yehi Rava may be the will, Dahani Shebadari, these 7 rows, L'havachilaf Shvashnin, Domali Rav. Now Rav had a reason why, as we're going to see in a second. He says, Fregnish Kasha, it's not Kedai for 7 years. But he said, let it be that the 7 rows that I was taking back should be the equivalent of the 7 years that Rav told me not to ask a Kasha. So Kamakare, he stands up on his feet. Amalei says, Nahadim Aberesha. He says, let me get tzirik to the unhaib. Let's start over again. Amar Shmaita, so Rabbi Yochanan said a teaching, V'akshi, and Rav Kahana asked a question. Bava Kama, they put him in the front row. Amar Shmaita V'akshi, again Rabbi Yochanan said a teaching, Rav Kahana had a kasha. Now Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yosef Sheva Bistarki. Rabbi Yochanan was sitting on 7 levels of cushions or whatever it was that he was sitting on. So when he had a kasha and Rabbi Yochanan didn't have an answer, they took 1 level away from beneath him. Amar Shmaita V'akshi, again Rabbi Yochanan said a teaching, he had a kasha. Until they took away all the cushions from underneath Rabbi Yochanan, until he was sitting on the ground. Now Rabbi Yochanan Gaver Sabha, Rabbi Yochanan was an old man. His eyebrows were very big, and they covered his eyes. So Amalu said to the people around him, lift up my eyes. Again, he couldn't because his eyebrows are so big and covering over his eyes. Lift up my eyes, or his eyebrows, and let me see who this person is. So they took a silver tweezer to lift up his eyes. He saw that Rav Kahana's lips were split, meaning he once got an injury and his lips were split. Now, Sava, he thought, when you have a split lip, it looks like as a malach. He's probably laughing. He thought he's laughing at him, that because look what I did to you. I got you. I took your shiur. I asked you a kasha, bamba kasha. You're supposed to be a big maggid shiur. You didn't want to answer me. You know. So that's what chalash taite. You see, he had what's called chalish das. He hurt him. Benach nafshi, and because of that, Rav Kahana passed away. Now the next day, Rabbi Yochanan said to suddenly there's one less chair there by the shiur. It's quiet. No one's asking kashas anymore. So Rabbi Yochanan said to the Rabbanan, Chazisu lebavla, did you see that Babylonian? You saw what he did. So Amalei said to him, no, that's how he always looks. His lips are split. So Rabbi Yochanan went to the kever, he went to the cave where Rav Kahana was buried yesterday, a fresh grave where Rav Kahana was buried. Chazi saw the Hava as we continue on base, Hadrule Achna. There was a large snake that made himself in like a circle, and he surrounded the cave, and he put his tail into his mouth. That's it. The snake was a barrier. No one was able to come into the Ma'ara where Rav Kahana was buried. So Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan said to the snake, Achna, snake, psach pumich, open up your mouth, meaning widen open your mouth to remove your tail from your mouth and make an opening that we could come in. And let the teacher come to the student, which Rabbi Yochanan was the teacher, Rav Kahana was the student. And he didn't open up his mouth. So he says, let a colleague come to a colleague. He didn't open up his mouth. He says, let the student come to the teacher. And the snake opened up his mouth. Rabbi Yochanan beseeched mercy, and he revived him from the dead, Rav Kahana. So Rabbi Yochanan said to him, says, had I known that this is how you always are, that your lip is always split, I would not have felt offended. So now let the master come with us back to yeshiva. So Rav Kahana said to him, if you could beseech mercy, you could daven that I'm not going to die anymore if I'm going to ask you a kasha, azilna, then I'm going to go with you and I'll come to learn in the base of Medrash. If not, lo yazilna, then I'm not going to go. Why? Since the moment passed and the miracle happened to me, chalaf, it passed. But I'm not going to go with you anymore because maybe you're going to get angry at me and I'm going to die another time. Rather, I'm going to go alive back home and I'm not going to stay with you anymore because maybe I'm going to die another time. Now, Rashi brings actually someone I explain. The Hoyle of Chalav Shaita means to say since the moment passed and I already got the tsar of Misa, I'm not going to go and do it another time and come back alive. Now, Rashi says from Gemara Pesachim, it's obvious that he did go home. Because Rav Kahana says, if not for the fact that I married a Kahanis, I would not have gone to Gullus. And it's obvious that he had survived for a while after that, so he doesn't really like that girsa. Basically, it means to say that I'm going to go home. I'm not coming to yeshiva. Now, Tyre, he woke him up from his sleep. Ukmei, so he lifted him up, meaning he brought him back to life. And Shaili kol sveka dahavale, Rabbi asked him all the doubts that he had. And he answered all his questions. This is what Rabbi says in the Gemara Sukkah, Dilchain Amri, meaning, this is Machlokes Rashi and Taisus, but the way Rashi explains it is that he told his students who are Bnei Eretz Yisrael, he says, I originally thought that it's yours, we know Kimitzi and Teitzisayra, but the truth is, Dilhaini, it's those of the students of Babel. You see how great Rav Kahana, who is from Bavli, that he comes and he bests us, Rabbi Yechanan, that's from Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara brings another story regarding a meiser, an informant, of giving over someone else's money to the Jewish people. Ahuda achvi am tachsa de Rababa. There was someone that had showed the authorities a silk ornament of Rababa. And he showed it to the authorities. Yasser Rabavo, Reb Chanina Bapapi, Reb Yitzan Afcha, these three Talmid Chacham were sitting together. You usually find there's like three Talmid Chacham sitting. And then the Yasser Rabbalog, there's a fourth one that's sitting with them, but it's like it's their chevra and he's with them, because it's like he usually says something different than them. They thought that they're going to hold the guy who showed the authorities his silk garment liable, mahadidnan, from what we learned in the Mishnah Masechet B'chayris. What does the Mishnah say? Mishnah says, Danas Adin. If someone, a dayan, judged a court case, Zik is a chayev, and someone who was really supposed to be guilty, he found them not guilty. B'chiv is a zakai. The guy was supposed to be not guilty, he found him guilty. Or timas atar. Or was supposed to be tar, he says tameh. But tiras atameh, or was supposed to be tameh, he says tar. So the halach is masha asa asa. What he did is done. And v'yishal mebeiseh. But he's got to pay from his own pocket because he made a mistake in the halachic psak. And what we see is that for just speech, what did the dayan do already? The dayan just said, for speech, you're going to be chayiv. So here also, when the guy says, hey, his stuff is over there to the authorities, you see that you can be chayiv for dibur b'alma. However, Amar Rabbi, the fourth one who was sitting with them, he says, Bar Hachem Rav. Rav said, in explanation of all these cases in the Mishnah B'chayris, V'husha nasam nasam biyad. It's only when he actually lifts up by hand, which we have explained many other places already, how each case is when he actively does it, but just Stam saying he's not going to be chayiv. So that's not a good source to be machayiv someone with just speech. So Amalei, they said to Rababa, okay, you know what? Zilgab Reb Shimon ben Eliakim, Reb Elazar ben Bedas, go to those two Talmidei Chachamim, because the Dayan Din Digami, they educate and they hold that you're liable for indirect causes of damage, which we explained from Taisus already, this idea that that's why you're chayiv for informing the authorities about this guy's money. So Azagabai, he went to them and chayiv him, and yes, he held the guy liable from the halacha of Mishnah, which we said in Machmas Agazan that if this guy is losing his field from the authorities because of the guy who stole his field, so then that Goslin, so to speak, has to compensate him in another field, which we explained. He didn't actually steal it and then they stole it from him. He just showed them, the authorities, this guy's field, and we held that you can be chayiv. That's because din digarmi, that's why you can be chayiv. So therefore, that these two Talmidei Chacham said that this guy who stole, who didn't really steal, but he showed the authorities, there's amtachsa derababa, is also going to be chayiv. Another story brings the Gemara. Who gave? There was a man, that he gave a silver goblet to safeguard, and slika gamvi, so what happened was that robbers entered the guy's home. Shakul, they took the silver becher, and Yahavalahu, meaning they came to him, and the shomer gave it to them, the silver becher. Now, also coming to the rabbi, he came in from the rabbi, and Patre, he said he's exempt, he's off the hook. He said, how could you say that? Hi, this is what's called matzal asma b'mam chaveruhu. It's halacha that you cannot save yourself with someone else's money. If you do, you can be chayiv. So here the robbers come in, they're like, ooh, they're rummaging, they're dangerous people. And you say, here, just take this silver becher, take this and leave us alone. So how could he be potter? He's saving himself with someone else's money. So Elam Rav Ashi, rather Rashi says, Chazina we see, if this guy is a wealthy guy, big fancy house, nice car, died the day also. So we're coming for him. They thought, who knows what they're going to find over here? Really, it's only on the outside. He really doesn't have so much money. He actually borrowed a silver becher from someone else, and that becher is watching is what they said they take. Then he's going to be chayiv because they're coming to steal from him. But if not, then I die to the kaspa also. Then they're coming for the silver becher that they knew he had, and they're not coming for him, and therefore he's going to be potter. Which Tracy says, even though we previously said nasam miyad yig michayev, here this guy takes out from the china closet the guy's silver becher. So the Re says interesting. He says a shomer is different because it's with that intention that you give it to the guy to watch that he could save himself with that thing if they're coming to steal that thing. I mean, people know that this guy's watching his silver becher, that it's on display at this guy's house. So if they're coming for that, even though he does it by hand, Tracy explains that he's going to be potter. Another story says the Gemara, who Gavra, there was a certain person that have a mafkid gabay that it was deposited by him, Arnika de Pidyon Shvuim. A purse, a wallet full of money that was supposed to be used for redeeming captives. Sliki Gambilave, so the thieves found out about it, that this guy's holding on to the money. And they came and broke into the guy's house. Shoklo, the guy took the purse, and Yavan Alayu, he gave it to them. So Asakamei, and the gear says, the Rabba. Came in front of Rabba. And Patre says, you're exempt. Again, Abaye says, what do you mean? But he's saving himself, and again, this is not a shomer, so to speak. He's saving himself with the guys, and moreover, it sounds like even Taisa explains that the guy is wealthy. We're not differentiating. So and you're saving yourself with other people's money. You should be chayiv. So Amalei said an interesting answer. He said, "En lecha pidyon shvim gadol mazeh." There's no greater redeemer than this, that since he didn't have anything at that moment to give to them, that's considered redeeming his own self from captive. Who knows what they would have taken him as a captive. But he was able to say, here, take this money. And therefore, the fact that this was tzedakah money for Pidyon Shvuyim, it was used for Pidyon Shvuyim, which was for himself, and therefore he was potter. Remember, brings another story. Who Gavra, there was a certain person, the Aktim, Va'asik Chamra Lamavra. What he did was, that mishtipt, where everyone's waiting for the boat, for the ferry, Cholamoid, and this guy got his donkey first onto the boat. Before any people were able to get onto the boat, figured, the island's not looking, mishtipt, they're not going to let his donkey get on. He got his donkey on before people got on. Now, the problem was that the donkey wanted, Dvuye, was going to sink the boat because it was too heavy. So a person came along, guy grabbed this guy's donkey, threw him into the river, and the donkey drowned. Also came into the Rabbah. This guy came from the Rabbah. Patre says, you're off the hook, you're not chayiv. Abai said, again, the same question, what do you mean? He's saving himself, that he doesn't drown, with someone else's money by throwing it into the river. You're chayiv to be mashlam there. How are you saying that he's pater? Amalei says, not true. This guy, the owner of the donkey, Meikara, from the beginning, Reidiv Hava, he was what's called pursuing to kill people because the donkey was going to sink the boat. Rabba Tamei, Rabba goes according to his reasoning because the Amar Rabba says the following halacha. Someone was pursuing after someone to kill that guy, and as he's trying to shoot someone to kill him, he breaks vessels. Now, Bein Shel Nirdev, whether it's the victims or ultimate victim, that guy's garments or vessels, whoever's stuff he broke, Pata is going to be exempt from payment. Why would this guy who's trying to kill someone be exempt if he smashes people's stuff on his way? He's taking a car and he's careening those car chases and the guy's smashing cars, he's trying to kill someone to run them off the road. He's going to be Pata. He's not chayav. Why? Because when he's having this car chase, he is liable for his own life. And even if he doesn't kill the guy, the Mishnah teaches in Perek Ben Sarimir that you're going to be potter because that these people could save the guy's life when he's trying to kill another person, he's allowed to be killed. So it comes out that the tashlumin that he's chayiv for smashing, let's say, other people's cars, and the chiv misa are all happening at the same time. So since his life was able to be killed, so therefore that's like a chiv misa, and therefore he's not chayiv for any tashlumin that happened when he's trying to kill that person. Now, the main thing we actually want is this next halacha. V'nirdaf, let's say the victim, sheshibra esai kelim shel roidiv, let's say this guy, someone's trying to kill him. And as he's trying to kill him, the guy's wrestling with him and he tears the guy's jacket and he breaks the guy's glasses. Pater, he's going to be pater. Why? You can't say that guy's money is more dear than the guy's body, because the victim is allowed to kill the guy's pursuing him, like it says in the Torah, if you find the thief in the cave, the Torah says, and Bala Hardachah, if he's coming to kill you, Hashkem Harga, you kill him first. So if you're allowed to kill him, you're allowed to smash his car, you're allowed to break his glasses, you're allowed to tear that Armani suit that this hitman has, whatever it is, you're allowed to do that. Now, Aval Bad, Shakal Adam Chayiv. But if the victim, let's say, breaks someone's door when he's trying to run away from the murderer, then he's going to be Chayiv. Why? Now let us save yourself with someone else's money. And if you do, you're Chayiv. Now, now, if you have someone who's pursuing, after someone who's pursuing to save the victim, so you have a guy who's trying to kill someone's trying to kill the guy who's trying to kill someone, as you have many times in Eretz Yisrael, someone's trying to kill someone, you have someone else taking out a gun, trying to shoot the terrorist. And as he's trying to do that, he's careening, he breaks smashes someone else's car door. Whether it's the victim's car door, whether any other person's pot is going to be potter. Now, it's not from basic halacha, says the Gemara. Because the truth is, when you save yourself with someone else's money, you're chayiv. For sure, when you're saving someone else, not your own self, with someone else's money, for sure you should be chayiv. Ella, it's just that if you don't say this, if you say a guy was coming to save someone, and he breaks something on the way, that Tzala member is on his way, and he breaks something that he's going to be chayiv, no one's going to want to get involved to save someone from pursuit because he's going to be held accountable and liable. So to prevent the heroes from pausing and not doing anything, we say, don't worry, if anything happens, you're going to be pater. But upon them, what we see is Rabba Lishitasai, that Rabba holds this halacha that we're saying that this guy who put the donkey on the boat, that he's a roidiv. Because the donkey is going to sink the boat. So that's what we're saying, that Rabbah holds that, yes, usually you cannot be matzlas mamam chaveiroi, but when the guy's a roidif, then we say that his money is not bigger than himself. The roidif, you're allowed to kill the roidif, for sure you're allowed to ruin his money, and that's why he was allowed to throw the donkey off the boat and not be chayiv. Now look at the next Mishnah, continue on this theme about a stolen field. So Shatva Nahar. What happens if a guy, quote unquote, stole someone's field, and what happened was that it was at the edge of the river, and the river overflowed, and it flooded the whole field. So it's still a house by the beach, nice party house, and the waves came and they just destroyed everything. He says, "What's yours is yours." As the basic principle is, karka is not nigzelas. So there's no chiva shava, and this is your land, and he walks out. He's not chayiv for the flooding. Now the Gemara brings a machlokes on this. If someone steals a field from his friend, and the river floods it, so actually chayiv lahamad the river. Blazer disagrees with the halacha of Mishnah. He holds that you actually do have to give him another field, meaning karka is nigzelas. Land can be stolen, and the gazan has a chiva shava, and he has to either return the land in its original form, or and now he has to pay up. They disagree. No, they hold like Talach Mishnah. He tells them, "No, what's yours is yours. Take your field." Because again, karka cannot be stolen. So the Gemara wants to know, okay, but what are they disagreeing about regarding if there's a chiv hashava on the field or not? So the Gemara explains that this is a classic Talmudic machlekes regarding how to translate psukim. Blazer Darish, he expounds what's called ribuyi umiute, with inclusionary and exclusionary terminology. And this is by the parish of Gzela, and regarding Shvuas, and of a Pekadon, where it says in the pasuk of this, it says, "V'chichesh ba misay." This pasuk is in the context of a person that's misappropriating, where he's denying for his friend what he owes him. Now that's a riba. That's inclusion in terminology. That's just like saying whatever he denies. But then it says b'pikadin or b'tzumes yad or b'gazel. It says specifics. So that's a miyut. That's minimizing what you're going to be chayiv for regarding what you stole or what you swore regarding or whatever. Then it says or from kol asher yishava lav l'sheker. And then the pasuk says in a few pasukim later, or whatever he swears falsely regarding. Oh, that's chazar b'riba. That's now an inclusionary terminology. We're saying whatever you swear falsely regarding. So that's what's called riba midvar riba. There's inclusionary, exclusionary, and inclusionary. Okay? So riba kol. So then we're going to include everything. So my Rabbi, what are we including then? Rabbi kol mili. We're including everything. Even land. You can be chayiv for when you swear falsely, like by a pakad, by a deposit. And for the halacha of returning when you steal something. Are these psukim over there in the parasha? Because again, we're doing riba and midvar riba, you include everything. Now, including everything, it might mean it, but there is an exclusionary terminology. When you pick specific items, you talk about pekada and tzumazad, you're saying specifics, you're minimizing. So miyat shtachis. So we minimize the most unlike it, which a document, first of all, has no intrinsic value, monetary value, because you're just giving him a piece of paper. That's the most unlike anything that you should be chayiv for. But karka, let's say, you will be chayiv for. That's the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. That's why he says by karka you cannot just say harish shachal v'necha. But Rabbanan darshan klal prati. No, they darshan with what's called a klal prat. That's a very different way of looking at things, because you have the chichesh is the klal, because again that's general, pekad and prat, and you have a deposit. It talks about specifics. Oy mikol, then he says the pasuk or whatever he swears falsely regarding chaz of kol. So that's going to be again another general terminology. That's called klal prat the klal, a general, specific, and a general. Okay, that's iyat daniel kena prat. That you only evaluate what's similar to the specific, which is maha prat. Just like the specific is dava metal guvim mammon. Whatever the items that we discussed, a deposit, a loan, those are things that what's the common denominator of them? They're movable items. And Begufim Mammon has intrinsic monetary value. I've called them metal Begufim Mammon. That means anything that you can be chayiv for the like a hashabas exel and all these things has to be something that's movable and has intrinsic monetary value. A yotzu karkais that excludes property because she'im metal, it's not movable. So that's not going to have the Allah of hashabas exel. And then you could say rishol chalafenecha. That's the opinion of the chachamim. Yeah, and also Yatzabad also excludes the halach of slaves, because in general they're equated. It's equated to the halachas of property. And Yatzashtar also excludes documents, because even though it's a movable item in Gufa Mammon, it does not have any intrinsic monetary value. It says Gemara, Tanya. The Gemara says, wait a second, I have a difficulty because we have a brayse that says, someone steals a cow, and the river floods it. We say para the river floods. Says you got to pay him back another cow. The sages say, no, we say, look, what's yours is yours, just take back your cow as it is. Say, what is this going over there? That's a cow. That everyone agrees you have a chiv hashavas exela. How can the chum say, harish chalafenecha? So my papa says, what the tuman over there is going to gazel sadem mechabe. No, you actually stole a field from his friend. Well, he says, but there was a cow laying on the field that you stole, and then the river flooded the field. But the Gazan, like Rashi explains, never did Meshicha. He never did a kinyan on the para. So therefore the para will have the same, like a tuffle to the ikar of the karka, will have the same halacha as the property itself. With Rabbi Lezer l'tameh. So then Rabbi Lezer goes according to his reason that he says a field could be stolen, and therefore he acquires the cow with it, and therefore he has to pay. Because metal, movable items, could be nicked, could be acquired agav karka. So if you're kind to the karka, Rabbi Lezer l'shitasa, you're also acquiring the cow, and therefore of course you're going to have to pay. But for Rabban go according to that reasoning that you don't acquire the field, and if you didn't acquire the field, you didn't acquire the para through that because you didn't do any specific kinyan on the para, and that's why you're going to be part. I thank you to any time for hosting us.